This trade report is genuinely insane as the rumors are intensifying with the Spurs fully in the offseason. Jeremy Sochan's name has recently surfaced in a huge trade report involving the Brooklyn Nets and a 3-and-D wing that the Spurs have had interest in before. We have to dive into this recent report, which honestly has big implications for the Spurs' offseason plans and the roster construction moving forward, and how this ties into ownership's recent comments about the long-term plan for the organization. There is a lot we got to get into on this episode of Spurs Digest, and we'll just start with the actual rumor. Now, this comes from Nets Press on Instagram. I will leave the link down below so you can go check it out yourself. Now, this came out a little while ago, but I'm only seeing it really surface today in Spurs spheres, so I want to get into exactly the report, and again, you can go read it. This is not everything that they said, but it's most of it. It's the important part. Talks are expected to resume closer to draft night as the San Antonio Spurs are still interested in Cam Johnson per a source within San Antonio. A potential package of Jeremy Sochan, they spelled Jeremy wrong, but that's okay, a salary filler, and the 15th overall pick is what's currently being rumored. Now, again, this report came out before the Spurs were locked in to have that 14th overall pick from Atlanta, so we can only assume that would now be the 14th overall pick, but this is a big thing here, and he posted, like, they credit their sources, posted a text conversation. Also included in that text conversation said a rep from the Spurs reportedly said that Charles Bassey could even be seen as the Spurs' full-out backup big next year, and that might be a video on its own there talking about that, but I want to focus on this trade rumor of Jeremy Sochan plus a first for Cam Johnson. And before I dive into my opinion, I want to hear your guys' opinion, okay? Right now in the comments, feel free to pause, leave a comment, because I want to see what all you have to say about this. To me, I don't think this makes sense. Look, from a basketball perspective, I get it, right? We're talking Cam Johnson, a guy who scored 18.8 points per game. He 4.3 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 48 from the field, 39% from three. This is kind of exactly the prototype of player that you want to play alongside Victor Wembanyama. But the question with him is, what does his long-term future and contract look like with San Antonio past just now versus Sochan, who has this rookie scale control, right? You have control over Sochan for a while into the future. And while Sochan's play style isn't as conducive to a free-flowing offense with Wembanyama like Cam Johnson's would be, Sochan brings a lot of importance on the defensive end that you're just not going to get from Cam Johnson. The versatility of Jeremy Sochan on defense is extremely valuable. Am I saying that Sochan's necessarily a better player today than Cam Johnson? No, I think you could make the argument depending how much you value defense and depending on your team system, of course, but honestly, like, I just don't see a world where it's Sochan plus a first for Cam Johnson. And I want to bring up some comments that I talked about in last video from ownership as well. Peter J. Holt saying, we don't want a roller coaster between victories and defeats. We want to build a superpower, an ultra competitive team that lasts for a long time. And this is an interesting thing, right? Because this report from Nets Press was like, oh, like, you know, if they miss out on Giannis, they miss out on KD. The Spurs, I'm almost sure, are not going to go for, I mean, look, you'd be a fool to not at least check in and see what price it costs for these guys, but realistically, there's no point in mortgaging the future for those guys for a short-term window right now for the Spurs. You want to build a type of dynasty like you can with Victor Wembanyama. And I think Cam Johnson could be part of that because, again, his play style fits well. Though he is 29, I think his game will age quite gracefully just by the way he plays. But again, when we're talking about a long-term dynasty, I think Sochan fits better, and why not draft for someone, or I don't know, target maybe someone else in a trade that's a little bit younger that fits the bill a bit more, right? So from a basketball standpoint, I just want to point this out again. I think Cameron Johnson, as a longer-term starter for the Spurs alongside Wemby, Castle, and Fox, I think Cam Johnson fits a lot better in that mold for what the Spurs would want for a high-tier offense, right? A great tier team. You got that floor spacer in Cam Johnson who's capable of putting up between 15 and 20 points a night. While you have the slasher in Castle, you have Fox who can do a bit of everything, and you have Wemby at the 5. You can put whoever at the 3, maybe a Vassell, right? But I think that Sochan's future potential looks too good to package him along with a first to get Cam Johnson. And I want to point out again that Cam Johnson was a fantastic player this year, and I don't want to underrate what he has done for the Brooklyn Nets. He was their second leading scorer this year, but really first in terms of qualified leading scorers. Look at all the people around him, right? Shooter, gone. Russell, like Cam Thomas. The only guy that played as many games as Cam Johnson that's anywhere pretty much in this top 10 there. You got Keon Johnson, And then you got Nick Claxton, and I guess Zaire Williams as well played more games than him, but started fewer. Like, you have to go down to Keon Johnson, who averaged 11 points a game, to get anyone that played as much as Cam Johnson. So honestly, in terms of impact, he was their leading scorer. I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that. 57 games, 18.8 points per game, which is very interesting, right? Because when the pressure was on him for this pretty poor Brooklyn Nets team, for him to score in most of their games, he did so, and he did so efficiently, which is one of the most impressive things about Cam Johnson. So I don't want to undersell it, because I honestly think that on a team like the Spurs, who can create so many shot opportunities for him, this guy's three-point percentage could easily climb into the 40s. He shot 39% on 7.2 threes a game, while being, a lot of the time, their primary scorer. That is nuts, right? Like, that is actually crazy when you put that into perspective, where you compare to Sochan, he's not a scorer, right? That's not what he's there for, but still 11.4 points per game. He was very efficient from two, starting to shoot threes more, 31% from three. I don't think he's ever going to be some kind of elite three-point shooter. I think he'll creep closer and closer to league average as time goes on, which is very valuable in and of itself, but his biggest value is the defense, right? So I need to hear from you guys, because me, like, I'm struggling to figure out exactly what I want here, right? And again, with these draft picks, like, looking at where we're slotted to pick, we still have that 8th pick. Giving up another lottery pick plus one of our more promising young players for Cam Johnson is tough. But it's always tough when you have a young guy that you're giving up for a known talent. A Cam Johnson that you know is going to play very well for you. You know is going to fit your offense great. You know is probably going to accelerate your championship window. That's the value you get in Cam Johnson, and you can't just get that for free. There's going to be other teams that are out looking for him for sure. But when you look at this draft, you look at the possibilities that the Spurs could draft. Trading a pick's not a bad idea, considering we have 2 and we're coming out of this rebuild. We want to be contenders very, very, very soon. You might not have time to fully develop these guys. You can draft a sure thing type guy if you want, maybe a 21-year-old, but I don't know. I'm not sold. I'm not sold on trading the 14th overall pick plus Jeremy Sochan for Cam Johnson, but that's the beauty of these things. Like, you're talking about trades, the Nets would say, a first and Jeremy Sochan, that's probably worth it. I might want more. Spurs fans are like, Cam Johnson, I don't want to give up that much for him. So there's that back and forth between fan bases, but I need to hear from you. Is it worth giving up on Jeremy Sochan's future plus whatever that draft pick is for a guy that I think is going to be a better fit for this team right now? I don't think Cam Johnson is going to be better than Jeremy Sochan in 3 or 4 years' time. That's my big gripe with this. I think in 3 to 4 years, you're going to be looking at Sochan and whoever that 14th pick is and say, that's worth a lot more than Cam Johnson. Unless the Spurs win a title in the next 3-4 years, or they do it with Cam Johnson after he resigns, which is very possible, sure. But again, when you're building for the long-term future, Wemby's still very young. His prime is still probably 6-7 years away. It's tough to say, but let us know your thoughts down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We just passed 6,000 subs this way, so I just wanted to say to every single one of you, thank you very much. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.